Welcome to another UFC prop drop segment, obviously covering Saudi Arabia this week, headlined by Israel Adesanya and Nasruddin Imavov. Very fun fight there, but there are a ton of very intriguing props sprinkled out throughout the card, and another reason why I'm so happy to do this prop drop segment rather than just my three best prop bets and my long shot, which I still include at the end of this video, but at least this gives me an opportunity to hit on all the props that I very much would like to touch upon to convey to you guys so that you guys can, put it up against your own notes and decide if you want to take the wager or not. But for most matchups, giving you guys the props I like for the winners. But if there are hedge opportunities that I like for the opposing side, I'm going to show that to you guys as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First matchup up, Jamal Pogues against Hamdi Abdelwahab. This is a matchup that I expect to go the full 20 or 15 minutes here. Although Abdelwahab has some decent knockout power in his hands, I do think he's going to struggle with getting Pogues to the ground, and that will allow Pogues to utilize his impressive striking approach here, which he's been able to tag up a couple of opponents in the past. And I think he'll be able to do the same thing here to the very green and raw Abdelwahab, who's also coming off a 2.5-year-long layoff. You can get Pogues by decision at plus 185. His line at minus 110 is not a bad spot. If you want to get a little bit greedy, go with the decision prop at plus 185, as I believe that is the most likely outcome for the decision machine, Jamal Pogues. Next matchup, we got Lucas Alexander going up against Bogdan Grad. Alexander came in a little bit overweight for this matchup, but I still expect him to go out there and do what he does best, and that's utilize a technical striking approach. I think we'll see him touch up Grad from distance. He strikes well from both stances, strikes well even moving backwards, has some good calf kicks and leg kicks that he might utilize to slow down Bogdan Grad. But I do think he ends up winning this fight by decision at plus 250. You can take a little bit of a flyer on his knockout prop at plus 300, as we've obviously seen Bogdan Grad get starched in the past, but I don't think that Alexander holds the type of power that we saw from Tom Nolan when he put out Grad back in 2023. But again, if there are two ways that Alexander wins this fight, it's either decision or knockout. And then on the flip side, BJJ black belt, Bogdan Grad, I believe he's going to be looking to get this fight to the ground more often than not, and you can get his submission prop at plus 800, which I don't think is a bad way to approach this, especially from a hedge perspective. A lot of people are going to be looking to take Grad by knockout, considering the last loss on Alexander's record. But Grad is more of a submission guy, and I think he's going to be looking to stay out of the striking range of Alexander by taking this to the ground and potentially opening up submission opportunities for himself. Next up, Jasudavicius going up against former bantamweight title challenger Mayra Bueno Silva. A little bit chalky here. I'm expecting Jasudavicius to win this fight by decision. That's coming in at minus 140. Nothing spectacular there, but the other line on the hedge side that kind of intrigues me is Mayra Bueno Silva by submission at plus 700. We know Jasudavicius likes to get into the grappling realm, and she has pretty good scrambling ability and good defensive grappling as well, so I'd be surprised if she ends up getting caught in anything by Bueno Silva here. But if Bueno Silva wins this matchup, as she normally does, by just snatching necks up out of nowhere, she might be able to do that here against Jasudavicius, and at plus 700, not a bad head spot if you find yourself overexposed on the Canadian side. All right, next up, Terrence McKinney going up against Damir Hadzovic. Violence is exactly what I'm expecting in this matchup. Now, I've been dropping these stats every time I talk about Terrence McKinney. 21 of his 22 professional fights finishing under 1.5 rounds. All 9 of his UFC fights finishing under 1.5 rounds. He's 5-4 in those matchups, so you've seen him get knocked out, even in his last matchup against Esteban Ribovics. So you can get Damir Hadzovic KO round 1 plus 1,900. Damir Hadzovic KO round 2 plus 2,600. However, I believe the most likely outcome here is going to be Terrence McKinney round 1 submission at plus 195, because I'd be very surprised if he looks to strike with the Bosnian bomber here. I think he's going to look to get this fight to the ground immediately, and then from there look for the submission and try to get Hadzovic out of there sooner than later. I like the chalk on the under 1.5. Nobody would, most people don't want to pay that minus 270, but considering the stats that I just dropped for you in terms of how many fights McKinney finishes under 1.5 or gets finished under 1.5, I feel like it's always worth the shot there. But again, my favorite one, McKinney, round 1, submission, plus 195. Next up, Thomas the Train Petersen going up against Shamil Gaziev. I expect this fight to go the full 15 minutes, go to decision, coming in at plus 150. Petersen, very difficult to put away. Everybody's going to be kind of pointing at the Who's the guy that he lost to in LFA? Wow, I can't believe his name is escaping me. Salsa Boy, whatever his name is. God, I know you guys are watching this video right now and screaming at the screen saying, that's his name. That's his name. God damn it. It's going to bug me if I don't plug it in here real quick. I can't believe it's actually, I never forget names like this. Waldo Cortez Acosta. God damn it. Waldo Cortez Acosta. He knocked him out and finished him in LFA during their title fight, but that was due to the exhaustion that Petersen got to after desperation takedown after desperation takedown. But I don't think he needs to do that anymore. Even against Gaziev, I think Petersen has the better wrestling background here. And something that a lot of people are overlooking is that Shamil Gaziev started MMA much later in his career, and if I'm not mistaken, was more of a volleyball player than he was an actual MMA fighter or even wrestler before, while Petersen was mixing it up on the college mats and high school mats. So I do believe Petersen could keep this fight standing. I believe he's the better and more consistent striker, and his durability has mostly held up. As long as his cardio continues to hold up as it has in recent fights, I expect him to go out there and land better shots on Gaziev, force him to work, and maybe have Gaziev having some PTSD from that Rozenstruik fight that he had. So Petersen by decision plus 550, taking him straight up at plus 300 is a damn good spot as well. I know I'm getting shit for it this week, but we'll see what happens come Saturday morning when the fights actually go down. Or Gaziev by decision at plus 260. So decision props all around is what I'm thinking for this heavyweight matchup. Next up, Mohamed Naimov coming in, going up against Khan Ofli. Naimov is more so a finisher than a decision guy, especially at this stage in his career. Naimov by knockout at plus 230, not a bad spot. I think it does go the distance here. I think we see Naimov look to get to his grind. I think he's going to find it hard to get Ofli out of there. So Naimov by decision at plus 135 is probably my favorite prop in this matchup. On the flip side, though, Khan Ofli by submission, BJJ black belt by submission plus 1,000. Again, if he wins this matchup, that's probably how it could come. We're going to look for him to go out there and try to out-grapple Naimov, which I don't think he'll be able to do. But in case he clubs and subs him plus 1,000, you're going to be kicking yourself for not considering that if you didn't think about it before. But again, I think Naimov wins by decision here. Next up, Mike Davis against Faris Ziam. Ziam obviously much improved since what we've been seeing as of late, but I think he got a bit of an over-exaggeration in his last matchup against Matt Frivola, and I think that's why we're seeing some recency bias on this line. I think Davis kind of does what he wants to on the mat, but he is competitive enough in the striking realm to mix his takedowns well after lulling Ziam into thinking it's going to be a striking matchup. And then from there, I think Davis has made it very much known that he really wants to improve his jiu-jitsu game and continue improving that, submitting Natan Levy last time around, and now this time to get him at plus 480 to submit Faris Ziam. Not a bad spot to take either here. So I'm going to go Davis and Davis by submission on plus 480. All right, fun matchup here, or something that could be very boring depending on how Said Nurmagomedov wants to approach this. He goes up against Lock Dog Vinicius Oliveira. I believe this is either a Oliveira decision victory, which currently sits at plus 430, just due to his output and activity level, or Nurmagomedov catches him with something and probably knocks him out, which comes in at plus 750. Nurmagomedov by submission, obviously a little bit not as wide as the KO prop, which is why I'm kind of highlighting the KO prop here, as I believe this will more than likely be a striking contest, and for Nurmagomedov to win, he usually has to look for a finish. So yeah, Nurmagomedov by KO plus 750, not a bad line. Oliveira by decision at plus 430, the one that I'm leaning on most here. Heavyweights up next here, as we have Sergey Pavlovich going up against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Another hot take that I've had this week, going with Jairzinho Rozenstruik here. Obviously getting him at a great line at plus 255, but also to get his decision prop at plus 900, I think is a damn good gamble here as well, to take a little bit of a sprinkle there. Obviously we saw Pavlovich get touched up by Alexander Volkov last time around, and although Rozenstruik is not a Volkov type of striker, he's still a very good technical striker and a damn good counter striker, which is why the KO prop at plus 410 is not a bad spot either. But I expect him to take a tepid pace striking approach, really touching up Pavlovich, meeting him with that jab whenever Pavlovich tries to crash the pocket and land his own offense. But I think we'll see Rozenstruik do a good enough job in terms of just sticking to his game, sticking to his 1-2s, his damage-based approach, blooding up the nose of Pavlovich, and winning this on the scorecards at plus 900. I think rather than taking the Pavlovich minus 300 line, round 1 KO at plus 110 is the way to go, because if he is going to win this matchup, it probably looks like what Francis Ngannou did to Rozenstruik by just blitzing the pocket and landing big shots and getting him out of there. Yeah, I'd rather take that than the minus 300 on his money line. But my money is going to be on Rozenstruik and the decision prop at plus 900. All right, next up, undefeated Magomedov coming in at at 15-0, going up against Michael Venom Page. Now, I expect this similar to the Oliveira Nurmagomedov fight. Page by decision plus 290, touching up Magomedov from distance, countering him effectively, utilizing his speed, his striking defense to stay away from the majority of shots coming back his way. And then for Magomedov, by knockout, plus 310, probably the best way he wins this matchup. He might be able to squeeze out a decision here, but that's not as long as these KO props. But I do like Page here, as I think he is the better striker. And again, he needs to have eye-catching moments that could potentially allow him to get his hand raised in the spot. And I think he'll be able to come through on that. So even his money line, plus 160-ish, not too bad. But if you want to get a little bit greedier, by decision, plus 290 is the way I'd go. The last matchup here, main event, as we have Israel Adesanya going up against Nasruddin Imavov. The props that I'm looking at here for Izzy, by decision, plus 140. I think we'll see a classic Israel Adesanya performance, touching up Imavov from distance, landing some low kicks, slowing him down, some body shots, some good combinations, setting traps, feinting his way into the pocket and landing some strikes there. Or looking for late Izzy KO props, right? We know Imavov starts to slow down massively later on in matchups, and I think that's where Izzy might be able to take advantage of him if he is going to be able to finish him here. So, like I said, Izzy by decision, plus 140, Izzy round 4 KO, plus 2,700, and Izzy round 5 KO, plus 3,200. So, either or, I'm leaning more so the decision, but to get plus 2,700 and plus 3,200 against a guy that normally slows down later on in matchups, always worth a little bit of a shot there. All right. Let's move on to the best prop bets that I got here for you guys. Obviously, the prior week, we go 1 and 2 on best prop bets. The only one we end up hitting was Makhachev and Moicano. Fight does not start round 3 at minus 130. And then the Bakoyev Longshot round 2 submission at plus 1,900 does not come through. He finishes him by KO in the first round. I thought Reese would at least be able to make it into the second round, but that does not end up happening here. So, let's get into the top 3 prop bets that I got for this card. First one, Terrence McKinney, round 1 submission, plus 195. Again, I'm not going to explain these ones. I've already talked about it in the, when I went through the entire card. Mike Davis by submission at plus 480. Michael Page by decision, plus 290. And then the long shot, Jairzinho Rozenstruik by decision at plus 900. So once again, McKinney round 1 sub, plus 195. Davis sub, plus 480, Page decision, plus 290, Rozenstruik decision, plus 900. There you guys go. That's all the content for this week's UFC card. I'll be back next week on Monday to break down the next UFC card, which I believe is UFC 312, going down in Australia, headlined by the middleweight title fight between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland. Weili Zhang is going to be defending her title against Tatiana Suarez. And then the rest of the card is pretty crap, if you ask me. But we'll still be breaking that down in full. And I'll also be returning with the Legacy Warriors podcast to break down LFA 201. And that podcast should drop on Thursday after the weigh-ins are complete. So make sure you guys tune in for that as well. Good luck on all your action this weekend, folks. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace.